Yeah, we'll try to make this. You started the recording?
Yeah, already started the recording. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the No BS Real Estate Show, a podcast that gives you an inside look on how to make smart financial decisions while adding value to your life. I'm Matty Miller with ERA Real Estate, alongside my co-host and real estate investor extraordinaire, Ryan Robbins. Whether you're a longtime investor or a first-time buyer, join us as we dig through the everyday bullshit of real estate. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ryan Robbins, Matty Miller here, talking today about the importance of pricing your home right. So many deep dives we can go down this place, and especially in different markets. That's the weird part. So, Ryan, what's up, man? How are you?
Not too bad. Another Tuesday morning.
I need you to be a little more energetic, a little more. Come on, give me something. Have you not had a coffee yet? Because I have made a big one today.
It's another Tuesday morning here in sunny Jacksonville.
Sounds like a really, really weird newscaster.
What's that? What's that? ASMR. You ever hear of that? Where like people on YouTube will like, if you're really, it's like, I don't know what, get a feeling from it. So people like chew potato chips into the microphone, and you get that. Yeah.
Got nothing.
Remember that? It's supposed to spark that feeling where it's like makes the hair on the back of your neck rise type of deal. Or you'll have people that'll whisper, read you a book type, ASMR, look it up.
I don't really want to now.
You're going to find out.
I'm a little creeped out.
You're some weird stuff, Matt.
I'm a little creeped out right now. So back to real estate here. Anyway, moving on. So Ryan and I were talking about, Jacksonville right now is a pretty crazy market. And as most of the country, I wouldn't say most of the country, but a lot of areas in your second tier cities, your Jacksonville's, your Indianapolis, your Houston's, your Memphis, I'm not necessarily, I can't speak to New York or LA or anything like that, but we're moving really fast right now. And it's just kind of crazy. We've seen a couple things. So number one, when we talk about pricing your home right, you have to price it with the market right now. If you price it with the market right now, it will move fairly quickly. And by fairly quickly, I mean, don't be shocked if you have 4 offers in the first 24 hours. That's how quickly I mean. Now, if you overprice it, what's going to happen then? Or if you underprice it, what's going to happen then? And no one in this market is underpricing anything typically. So we're not seeing that, but we are seeing people that overprice it. And we're actually going to talk about, how to avoid that, what happens if you do overprice it, and, how to be prepared for each situation. So I'm excited about it, pretty much. So you want to sell a house?
Super excited about it.
This is getting really all right, so
cut.
And we're starting this episode over. No, I'm just kidding. We don't, because it's all live. So tough cookies. So one of the statistics that I want to talk about that we always talk about, as agents, we talk about it if you know it. But if your house is on the market for 21 days or longer than 21 days, it typically will sell for 5% lower than market value. That's a statistic in our market. I don't know if that's necessarily traditional to anybody else's or if it applies to anybody else's, but that happens in our market a lot. So if it's on the market for 21 days, and kind of the thinking behind that, I guess, is just the fact that people think, oh, if it's been on the market for 3 weeks, what's wrong with it? It's just the automatic, psychological thing that goes on in our brain that if it's been on the market for a long time, there's something wrong with it. When in reality, it may not be. It may be the fact that you had an agent that overpriced it, then they dropped it down to the real price. Now it's just been sitting when 2 other houses in the neighborhood have sold.
Back to your 21 days, which equates out to 3 weeks. So they always say, again, your first 3 weeks on the market are your most active. And why is that? Well, generally, everybody that's been looking for a home up until that point, when your house comes to the market, if it's in their price range, they're going out to look at the property. So after that 3-week mark, essentially everybody that's interested in buying a home at this very moment has probably seen your house. The only follow-up showings you're going to generally get after that are people that have just decided to go out and purchase a home, which is going to be your 1 and 2Z off here and there, that now they've started the home search. Your house is in their price range. So again, that's where you'll go from a bunch of activity to very little.
So what you're saying, so, and I just want to make sure and clarify what you're saying is, so anybody who's seen your house went and saw your house at the elevated price already, so they're not going to go back and see it necessarily. That house was out to them. It didn't stick out. Ooh, for the price I could get this. It didn't stick out. So
correct.
Nothing popped off the paper for them. And the issue with that is,
and that's kind of a quick way to judge where you sit in the market. So if you're come to the market and you're getting no showings at all, odds are that's a clear indicator that you're way overpriced.
Way overpriced.
If you're getting a bunch of showings and no offers, that's a good sign. At least you're getting attention. People want to see the house. But again, it's a better indication that you're probably close to being priced right, but you're not falling into their top 1 or 2 pick. You're probably more of a three or four as far as a range of interest to them, looking at other properties. And again, if you're getting a few showings here and there and no offers, you're again probably a little bit further from being priced right. You're probably more like a 5% to your point of view, whereas opposed to you're probably maybe just a 2% adjustment if you're getting a bunch of showings but no offers.
Sure.
So that's kind of.
And I wanted to reiterate basically, like, when someone goes in that property and they see it and it's overpriced, the first thing that I think as an agent is maybe that seller might be unreasonable. Like, man, they think it's worth a lot of money. It's not worth that. Yeah. I don't really necessarily want to negotiate with somebody that's unreasonable. I want to negotiate with an agent and a seller who are very reasonable from a buyer's perspective. So that's one other thing too. And like I said, I mean, there's other ways to do it. And like I said, you really base it off the amount of showings or offers or both in those first 2 weeks, 3 weeks you have. So, and us as agents, we have to communicate that towards our seller so they know exactly where you stand. Hey, we've had 24 showings and 1 lowball offer.
Yeah.
Showings are great, but offers are what counts. I mean, that's kind of the ball game. So, if you're getting a lot of showings, you're close. People want to look at it, but maybe there's something with the house that maybe it sits on a weird spot of land and you enjoy it, but not necessarily for everyone. And it may be something that you just can't change about the property. It's not necessarily that it's, or the pictures, or it is the property, or the pictures look great, but man, when you walk in there, that thing is gross, or something like that. So there's all sorts of issues, but moving on. So what happens if we, and let's talk about this. Let's talk about if we price it right. Okay. What often ends up happening in a market like this where it's very hot. So if you price it right, a lot of the times what happens is, and probably out of the last 5 offers I've had to deal with in the last, 4 or 5 months, which I don't do a ton of offers, still do property management here. So 1 a month's about where I run, somewhere in there. So last 5 offers, I think we've had 4 of them have been buyers. 1 of them has been a seller. The seller worked with multiple offers, and the 4 buyers have 3 of the 4 buyers, I believe, were all multiple offer. So that's pretty crazy when you think about that, is that, 4 out of the 5 were multiple offer situations. Now, the one that wasn't, and let me point this out, the one that was not, okay, was a house that was overpriced. Okay. And we got them down on their price. So that was the only one that was not a multiple offer. Okay. The 2 that I'm thinking of, and I don't know for a fact, but the one that I'm thinking of, we lost out on a full price offer. Okay. Full price, no contingencies. We lost out. So in that situation, they priced the house right. And I think they're probably going to sell the house for more than asking. So they actually, by pricing it right, drove the price up. Okay. You will never get that happen if you overprice. It's only going to go down. So you kind of have opposite effects at times.
And this is a good segue into a situation that I'm actually dealing with right now with a buyer. So to that point, there's very seldom where you're going to be priced right or overpriced and get offers over asking. Well, there's a property that came to market. You know which one I'll be referring to because we're bringing it on for management here in the coming weeks as well.
Gotcha.
Went under contract. Made an offer. their asking price, we'll say, is $180,000. We had made an offer essentially just over asking price. It had gone to a highest and best situation, made an offer just over their asking price. The offer was accepted, and the appraisal came back not at what the offer was. So again, this investor is doing conventional financing. So there's that appraisal contingency in there. And again, appraisal came 10,000 below what we've agreed upon price is, which is
remind us to hit on the appraisal aspect and what we've seen later in the back half of the show.
okay.
How appraisals are starting in my mind to control the market.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with, but remind me to hit that back up at the end.
So again, there's multiple offers, obviously at the asking price or around the asking price. We only were 2,000 above that, and this appraisal came in 10,000 below. So 8,000
off the asking price.
Yeah, they priced the house 8,000 over what I even appraised for, even if they got what they were, asking. So again, there's a indication of it was priced to the point where it got a bunch of activity. There was clearly interest. They went to a multiple offer situation, yet they were still overpriced for comps in the area.
Yep.
So
yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and talk about the appraisals right now. Is probably in the last probably 3 months, I've probably heard about 5 to 6 stories of appraisals not coming back. So at least as a human society, in my opinion, we might be learning something. And what I mean by that is, in Florida, when prices got crazy back in 2005, 2006, what came after that obviously was the worst recession since the Great Depression. So it's to the point where I think a lot of these appraisers that were still working in the field, they're starting to see these prices and they're going, oh, that's getting a little high up there for what it really is. And I'm actually glad that that's happening, because I think there has to be some market regulation. And not only do interest rates and banks play a part in it, not only do real estate agents play a part in it, appraisers have to play a part in it as well. So everybody has to do their job to protect their industry, and B, to protect the market, because if the market crashes, there's 6,000 real estate agents that are out of the business. There's a bunch of appraisers that are out of a business. There's a bunch of mortgage lenders that are out of the business. So it completely changes what's going on. So everybody has to do their part of regulation. Where an agent walks in there and goes, "You're stupid for paying this much for this house." I don't care if it appraises or not. It's just not worth it, because eventually you're going to be the one holding the bag, and the bag's only going to have a big pile of shit in it.
Yeah. The last 4 or 5 years here, in this market specifically, where we've been climbing so drastically, that would have appraised, if this was 2 years ago, it would have appraised for that, the price that we're under contract for.
Yeah.
So
and it's starting to change.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, and I think we're getting to this point where we was just climb. Well, I think climb, and now it's like flat. Like right now, if you go look at our numbers here in Jacksonville, things are actually flat. They're flatlined. Like that's very, very strange for the real estate market to be flatlined. It's normally definitely up or down either way, but it's flatlining's weird. So it's just kind of this, which I'm okay with a flat line, I guess, a plateau, but it's eventually it's going to start dipping down a little bit, I think. But that may take another 12, 18 months. I don't know. So anyway, I'm kind of glad that appraisers have kind of taken that and said, you know what, no, because for a while they just started signing off on every one of them. And just, you know what, let's get them back. And I think they were trying to do that to get values back up. Maybe that was, and I don't know the person in charge of making that decision, but I would like to meet them and ask them, are you okay with, there was houses in a while that got appraised and you're looking around for comps and you're like, okay, like it works, like whatever. Yeah. And you weren't going to ask any questions because you were getting a deal done. Now it's like, okay, we're getting to this point where you have to start taking appraisal seriously, and you have to make sure that it's going to work.
Well, a lot of people don't know as well is you can argue an appraisal. So if you don't necessarily agree with what the appraiser says, you can go back and say, well, have you seen this comp? Have you seen that comp? Can you take this into consideration? And they can tell you, yeah, I saw that. I'm not going to change it, but they can also go back and
and tell you
recalculate and
why
then
they,
change, but they
yeah.
can also change it and they can raise it up or down. And they're not going to raise it up or down to the number you may say, but they can adjust accordingly. And maybe it eventually hits the number that you're looking for.
If it's conventional financing, you can argue an FHA or a VA, but those are much harder
Yeah.
to stick with because I don't know why, but once basically the appraisal is done, it gets turned into FHA or the VA, basically those boards there, and that will stick with the property for 6 months. So that's kind of a pain in the ass when you have one of those. So we just had one actually. I just had one come back about $8,000 low. They ended up coming down on the price because they didn't have a choice. So we actually paid $2,000 over the appraisal amount, but that was it. So I mean, but they had to come down because they knew that the FHA appraisal was sticking with them for 6 months. You can go argue it all you want, but if you looked at the comps that they actually pulled, you knew what they were looking at too.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like that, you can argue both sides. It's a very subjective thing. Is here's these 3 properties that make sense of the property that you're buying. You can't argue it too much because I picked this one because of this, and it's the exact same thing. Well, this one's great, and I picked that one.
Yeah.
It's very subjective. So you're not going to be able to prove your point, and they're gonna argue back with you too. So I get
absolutely.
it. So
well, because you're basically challenging them on the job they've done. That's what it comes down to.
how do you like? Yeah, let's say in any job. When someone comes into you and says, you know what, I don't think you did your job well enough.
Yeah.
How do you think they're going to take that?
Prove to me why you didn't do this or do that.
Which as agents, we have to deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
And typically what I tell them is I give them a big middle finger and say, see you later. Because if you don't trust me to do my job, then the trust factor is completely lost anyway. So it's fine. No big deal.
So with the trust factor in mind, let's play into the psyche a little bit when it comes to, here's a pricing situation. So I want to list my house at, 210,000. You're going to tell me that, hey, maybe the market's more than likely going to land you right around that $200,000 mark, probably just below, maybe in that mid 190s. I would suggest let's price in at 199. And I'm going to argue, well, what if we go to 205 or 209 so I can try to sneak an extra couple $1,000s? Well, sure, you know where I'm going with this. The person their budget is $200,000. Well, if as a consumer, I want to price my house at 205 and and we know realistically it's probably going to sell for 195. Pricing at 205 and the guy that logs in and puts his Zillow price search limit at 200,
he's never going to see it.
That would have been a perfect house for him to buy. That would have fallen within his budget, priced at 199. And you want to price at 205 just to get a couple $1,000 extra, which is all imaginary, made up in your head anyway. And you now miss out on that buyer.
In hopes of getting $2,000 extra. That's the problem.
Yeah.
In hopes of.
Yeah.
And if you can honestly sit there as a seller and say, I think it will honestly sell for this, then sell it for that. Then market it for that. Well, and here's the deal. Don't come off your price.
I would say the big difference there is as a seller. Well, the seller isn't the professional. Agents are the professionals in the business.
Correct. Agreed.
Brokers are the professionals. Listen to what your agent and or broker is telling you. If they say, I think we should come in and price at 199 and you're arguing, but I really want to go in at 205,
Here's
the deal. If you're going to push that button as an agent, I'll go in, I'll list it at 205, but know where we're going to end up and set your expectations there. And also understand that it's probably not the smartest move to capture as many buyers as we want.
Correct. And you and I are the same people. I always want to get the most for your house. But like we were talking about earlier, if you price it right and you end up getting into a highest and best situation, you can often get that extra $2,000 or $3,000 because somebody might give you an over asking offer. Like that's possible. So you might end up, what you're trying to do and what actually happens can often teeter-totter, I guess. You try to price it right and you go higher, okay? And you try to price it higher and it comes in lower. So they kind of come and go. So be careful what you wish for, because at the same time, if you overprice it and it gets to that 21 days, that special 3 weeks, you're going to take 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
less than market value at times. And that's the way it goes. So
this
be
is the
careful
game
on that.
that's often played with investors as well. So different side of it. If you're living in the property, maybe you've got some time because you don't need to necessarily move right away. As an
Sure.
investor, if you have a rental that's sitting vacant or you have a flip that you just completed, well, now you have carrying costs. So
Yeah.
by
And
not pricing
that
right,
time frame is elevating
yeah,
quickly.
the
Yeah.
if you just sell, within the first couple weeks on the market versus 3 months in, well, maybe you've got, you know, on a flip where you've borrowed money, maybe you've got a $2,000 a month carrying cost between all your utilities, insurances, and interest you've got to pay back on,
Yeah.
hard money you've borrowed.
And you got a
Well,
hard money. I was going to say, yeah.
if you've overpriced, now you've got to start doing price drops. Plus, if it's 3 months in, you just cost yourself an extra 6,000
6
worth
grand.
of holding costs. So that right there, after a price drop, after the holding cost, after whatever, if you had just priced it right to begin with, you would have had a lot of action and you would have probably made more money pricing it lower than trying to price it higher to get a little bit extra and having it sit for longer.
And you've heard the thing, and let's add this again. What happens when the market changes and that market's moving down and we've overpriced it? Now
Yeah.
all of a sudden we've all heard the term chasing the market. If the market's going like this and we price it up here and we lower the price, lower the price, lower the price, lower the price, we're just chasing the market down and we can't ever catch it. I don't think
Yep.
we're going into a downturn that bad. Obviously, that's a maybe we're more here, maybe we're more here. But either way, my illustrations with my arms probably not great. But anyway,
You need a
um,
big
you get
whiteboard behind you. That's what
yeah, I just say you
the
get my
next
point. I'll get
investment
a
here.
big whiteboard back here. So, but you get my point. Like I said, if you're depending on the market you're in, you might end up chasing the market down and even screwing yourself even more. So, again, this all comes back to everything that we talk about on this show. Everything that we have talked about typically comes back to finding the right agent, finding the right person that knows the market and trusting that person. And if you find that person, and if you find that person in your market, whether you're in Dallas, Texas, Seattle, Washington, Bozeman, Montana, or Alberta, Canada, doesn't matter. Once you find that person, hold on to that person because honestly, there's a lot of real estate
Hold on
agents.
to them. Hug them.
I don't
Pull
know.
them close.
How about buy them a beer? How about that? Yeah, that'll work.
Step one.
Uh,
Take
yeah,
me
step
out.
one, take me out to a beer. But honestly, in my point to that is those people are fairly rare. Like there's not a lot of real estate professionals who are truly deadly honest with you. And if you can find that person, especially if it's somebody who works in investments and works in whatever, listen, all your top producers in the world, all right, listen, there's an ego-based driven society among the top end of real estate agents in this world. Absolutely. They are there to be in the magazines, they are there to be on the top of boards, they're there to go to the parties. That's what they're there. And that's fine. They make money, they kill it. I get it. Okay, but I'm not gonna. A true top producer in my world. If you're really a top producer, you ain't got time for all that shit. Okay, you're dealing with the investment side. You're dealing with different people. You're not going to those things. You're building a different business model versus just trying to work with buyers and sellers or working with 45 buyers. And I had 48 buyers that I worked with this year. I I don't want to drive around and look at that many houses. First off, but that's a whole different thing. So my point is, once you find that honest person, and that person may not ever be in the other side of that is the more honest you are, sometimes you don't make as much money as the people that lie and deceive
Oh,
and just want to get deals
100%
done.
not. No,
I mean, it's like
absolutely not.
it's a used car salesman aspect, and that's where realtors have a bad name.
Well, there was, I think we have what, 8, 9,000, maybe close to 10,000 agents in
10.
our
It's
in our
10.
in our market. I think there
Mm-hmm.
was 5,200 agents last year in the Jacksonville market that did not do
One
one
deal.
deal. Did
Yeah.
not do one deal.
About
So,
1,000 of your agents out of that's 10% out of our 10,000 do about 80% of the business.
yep.
So, and that's not only your high $1 million listings. Like there's people that sell one house a year, but they sell $1 million listing and all of a sudden they think they're really great at their job. No, you just happen to know someone. No
Yeah.
offense, but whatever. It's not that hey, this person owns a house on the beach, and I happen to have my license, and we have wine together on Wednesday nights, and I can sell this house. All right. So you go do some research, and it takes you 3.5 months to sell it, 4 months, 5 months, whatever. You sold your one house, you made your $40,000, and you went on throughout your day. And listen, I'd love to sell $1 million house. Fantastic. That'd be great. Okay. Is that my goal? No, not at all. My goal is to help people. Okay. My goal is to help investors. My goal is to help people with property management. My goal is to help the common person do the right thing and put themselves in a position to be financially free. I think that sums up our show pretty damn well, actually.
I think that's it. I think we're out of time. I got to get rocking.
Yeah, we're out of time, but I think that sums up our show. So
cool.
Guys, thanks for joining us. Where can they find you at, Ryan?
No BS Real Estate Podcast.com.
No BS Real Estate Podcast.com. That's it.
We got all of our info on there now. That's it.
That's right.
Dry.
That's where I'm leaving it. That's our cell phones are on there. Our emails are on there. Check it out.
You can find
still working
our
on that.
Facebook, our Instagrams, LinkedIn.
YouTube,
connect with us.
Anything. All our social media stuff is on there. So
Matt's address.
Right,
I put that on there.
Ooh, no, please no. Please no. I mean, what if I piss somebody off?
Hey, that's the point.
They'll
be doing us both a favor.
They're going to come talk to me in a weird ASM voice, aren't they?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, gosh.
Hey.
All right. Have a good one, bro.
We'll take this off the air, Matt. Bye. Bye, guys.
I'm muting you.
And cue outro. Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, there's a few things I'd like you to do. Subscribe, leave a review, and head over to NoBSRealEstatePodcast.com where you can connect with Matt and I on all of the platforms we're on. Also, if you could do us a favor, leave a message letting us know what you enjoyed about the episode and what you'd like to hear about going forward.